Now live from Studio 550, it's McGraw in the Morning on the Big 550 KTRS.
7:51 here on KTRS. Our next guest wrote a book that Publishers Weekly called The Definitive History of the Catholic Church's Most Severe Crisis Since the Reformation. The book is called Mortal Sins, Sex, Crime, and the Era of Catholic Scandal. Mike D'Antonio, our guest. Michael, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Good morning. Great to be here.
You're at a book signing tonight and a book reading sponsored by Snap at the downtown Left Bank Books tonight starting at 6:30. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But talk about this book. How did you come to write this book?
Well, I think you'd have to be illiterate when it comes to the news to not know there's been this long-running scandal of sexual abuse claims against the church and then discoveries that bishops cover up worse than Nixon and Watergate.
Right.
You know, this was a stunning scandal, and it's gone on for 30 years. And I got a hold of the folks who have led this crusade for the whole time, and they've said, we refuse to be shut down. We refuse to be denied. They're incredibly inspiring and incredibly tough characters.
Let's talk about the people inside the church first, because there were people who were trying to help and trying to get to the hierarchy to say, we've got a problem.
Oh, yeah. And one of the heroes in my book is this fellow, Tom Doyle. He was a priest. He was very high-ranking. He worked in the Vatican Embassy in Washington. You know, people don't realize priests have careers, you know, and they have ambitions. And he was on a fast track to be a bishop. And he saw the first case come in, investigated, discovered this is everywhere. And holy moly, we have a big problem. He, in 1985, warned the church and said, we've got $1 billion or more in liability here, and thousands of kids have been hurt. And what do? Nothing.
How could they not? I mean, there are people who are inside the Catholic Church, who are lay Catholics, who have left the Catholic Church, just people who have never been to a church, say, how is that possible?
I think one of the big issues here is that back then, and it's still true now, the same club, ordained men, run everything. And they believe that they can control reality, that they can hide things, prevent scandal. I don't think that they grasp that we're in a new world, that with online media and the internet and communication that's instantaneous and worldwide, if I get a clue about something going on in my church, everybody in the world knows it, and then they can put two and two together.
The book is called Mortal Sins, Sex, Crime, and the Era of Catholic Scandal. Tonight at 6:30, Left Bank Books, downtown. Mike D'Antonio is our guest and the author of the book. Was it malice or was it ignorance?
I think it was mostly ignorance. I also think, though, that it's easy to get defensive. You know, say someone sues you. You could be in the wrong, but you're going to get your back up a little bit.
Right.
And you're proud of your institution. You think your church has done more good than any organization in the world. And I'm glad one of the reviewers who, you know, called my book actually the gold standard of history on this issue, also said, I kept expecting for me to want to say, well, what about the good things the church does? And all of a sudden in the book, I note, these are the good things they do. The problem is dealing with the bad stuff while you still do the health care for people, while you still take care of homeless people,
right?
Education. Go do all those good things, but stop committing these crimes against kids.
Yeah. They would ship them from parish to parish.
These are the abusive priests.
Why did they just not understand that these people could not be rehabilitated?
I think you know what they did? This is the truth. They applied the philosophy of dealing with people with addiction. They thought of them as similar to alcoholics. Well, father's got a problem. Maybe he should go to a self-help group, get a little attention. But he's a good guy, and we've had alcoholic priests forever, and they can still function as priests. They didn't understand at first that child molesters and abusers can't stop on their own, and that it's a crime. They that's the stunning thing is these guys were raping kids, committing absolute violent felonies, but it was something they thought they could deal with and protect the church from scandal.
That's the disconnect for me. As somebody who was raised Catholic, I was an altar boy, never saw anything, never heard it. Well, that's not true. The adults in my family would say, if anybody does anything weird to you, you come to me first.
And you were probably a bit puzzled about, like, weird. What do you mean?
Right. That's exactly right. But even before 1985, there was still this underlying, hey, we do what the church says. However, there's this sort of nameless, faceless evil out there, and be aware of it.
Good for your parents. There were a lot of people who didn't know.
Right.
And, I was speaking in Chicago last night. Someone brought up Oprah. It's Oprah's hometown.
Right.
And they said, well, didn't Oprah publicize a lot of this? And, in fact, she did. And she gets a lot of flack for being extreme and exploiting issues. But I give her credit. This is a woman who brought child abuse into the open and said, this happens. It's not in every family. But it's not something we turn away from because it's ugly. It's something we turn to because it needs to be dealt with.
Has the Catholic Church solved the problem? Have they come clean?
Oh, I wish they had.
Not even close.
There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of rules being issued. There's not a lot of truth-telling. There's not a lot of effort to protect kids now.
Have they apologized?
I think there have been apologies. I know one pope has met with victims and apologized. I have in my mind, and it's early in the morning, so you guys are really pressing me. I have in my mind the vision of popes talking about this and saying this is a terrible thing.
Right.
It is rare for the perpetrator to go to a victim and apologize.
The book is called Mortal Sins, Sex, Crime, and the Era of Catholic Scandal. It's sponsored by Snap tonight, 7 p.m., book signing and a book reading at the downtown Left Bank Books. Starts at 6 p.m. Mike D'Antonio, did I say that right?
You got it right.
Mike D'Antonio, thank you very much for your work, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Quick check of traffic and weather. Tim Weiland.